Hey everybody, how's it going? So thanks for coming along to episode number 6 of Fundy Funspot, and this park is coming together rapidly. Thank you so much to every single one of you that's supporting this series. This has been such fun to build. If you're brand new, welcome aboard. This is our seaside park that we're building, our British seaside park, very much based on Fantasy Island here in the UK. At the moment this park is not beside the seaside, but I promise it will be. And it's all very much low budget but really well looked after, but that's about to change because we're about to put a pretty major coaster in. More on that in a moment. So as you already know, the finale of this season is going to be building the town. Thank you so much to every single one of you that submitted something for the town. I am literally blown away by the stuff that you've put in. It's absolutely incredible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're not too late if you want to get involved. All you need to do is upload your building to the workshop and include the phrase Fundy Funspot, and then include the title of your build, and I'll be able to find it on Steam and include it wherever I possibly can. So yeah, this is the episode, this is the area that we're working on here, this is what we were doing all of the last episode. So in this episode I'd like to get the coaster done, and I'd like to start coming around this way and start detailing all around here. It's very possible we might actually get the whole outside done, but I'm not expecting it. I'm expecting to still have to do this kind of area here because I want to spend a little bit of time on the actual coaster. But I'm prattling on for an introduction. This is already starting to get along. Let's just see how this coaster turns out, shall we? What did you vote for? Alright, moment of truth time. What coaster did we end up with in Fundy Funspot? What do you reckon? Oh, you already know because it's on the thumbnail. So, of course, we ended up with with the Mack Mega. So, it was very clear right from the very beginning that there was going to be no outright winner. You guys couldn't decide whether it was going to be a Mack or an Intamin. That was pretty much down the middle. And then when I sub-split it, it was then no clear winner between whether it was going to be a launched, whether it was going to be a Mega, whether it was going to be a Blitz, whatever. So, I've taken the executive decision and I've gone down the Mack Mega route that inverts. So it's almost as if you've got the Intamin and the Mack all in one go. And I've checked out the specifications for the Macks, and yes, this does work. There is a precedent set for this type of coaster, and the cost for this kind of coaster you're looking at around about 25 to 30 million. And before you say, but Fundy Funspot would never be able to afford that, just for context, Jubilee Odyssey coaster at Fantasy Island came in at 28 million, and then Millennium Coaster came in at 15 million, and they were opened within 3 years of each other. So we're going to say in this one that Fundy Funspot would have the budget to go in between the two. So that's kind of what we're going for here. Lots of work that I still need to do, and as you can see I've made a mess of the area. I've had to remove some of the pathing to put the new pathing and stuff in, and of course I'm going to need to do some kind of custom supports on this because I've got a lot of path underneath supports. As you can see, like, my lift hill is completely unsupported at the moment, so it looks pretty awful. But let's go for a tour. Tour. So obviously in the station, don't know what theme I'm going to do for this yet. I just know that we're going to have a raised station. Now this is necessary because of all of the pathing that's needed underneath. This is a coaster that breaks all tradition. It doesn't have a transfer track, and nor do any of the coasters at Fantasy Island. All of their stuff gets done in the station, or they get dismantled in the station and taken off site. So I know that in Top Tips videos and Reigate Lake and future projects I'm going to be talking specifically about transfer tracks and adding them in and making them real and having them connected to maintenance areas, blah 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 blah. Fundy Funspot and Fantasy Island don't use them, and again, that's the Fantasy Island is the precedent that's set for us to do that. If I wanted to go down the Blackpool Pleasure Beach route, I could have had the transfer track and everything underneath the station. That's a really cool mechanism, that the track just lowers itself from underneath the station and then lowers to the side. I think it lowers to the side, and that's where they do all their maintenance. We could have gone down that route, but I've just decided, no, we're just going to keep it nice and simple. So we then leave the station, we go up lift hill. The lift hill for this one is set to 33 degrees. Max coasters can go anywhere between 30 and 45 depending on height and whatever. Typical chain lift. It's not a cable or anything. Chains are pretty much cheaper, so we're going to go for a chain on this one. Into a swooping first drop that bends round, slight banking on the drop, and it does that whole twists too far and twists back thing that Mack coasters do. And the reason they do that is to stop the whip on the back rows when the train has gained speed. So if you watch all of the coasters that have some kind of a twisting first drop, they'll always twist too far and then twist back. Slightly, and that's so that they can control the G-forces in the back rows as the... Watch this. Hopefully you should be able to see it. So it comes down, twists, and then twists back. Yeah, so you can control the G-forces on the back row, so you're not giving people whiplash. That's why they do it. So then we come into 2 ejector airtime hills, and you know they're ejector airtime hills because they're a parabolic hill. Parabolic shape, so they're going to come in and swiftly come to a crest and come down, and then the second one is slightly lower and slightly shallower on the ascent and descent. It's just so you've got 2 different feeling hills. Then it comes into a Hyperion style turnaround, where it goes into what is potentially a non-inverting turnaround, but it's essentially a reverse Immelman, but it's not so much a reverse Immelman at the same time. And then it comes into a sustained airtime hill, and you know that because it's more drawn out. So whereas these come to a crest and drop off really quickly, this airtime hill is not so it's drawn out, so it's not so quick and snappy. And then it comes into a quick S-bend turnaround, into a second turnaround, so it's almost like a snake turn. So we're coming over the track, under the track, back round the track, and into another ejector airtime hill. But by this time, so we do this so it kills off some speed, because we've got a twister end layout. So we need to kill off some speed before we get there. So it goes through 3 twists, into an airtime hill and down and into another turnaround. But the turnaround is now very typically Mack. You will find that the Mack turnarounds are really sharp banked. So they'll come out of the airtime hill into a really sharp, heavy banked and heavy twist, really like quite tight curves, and that's what I love about Macks. I don't like the coasters very much. Icon, for example, is a bit of a disappointment, I'm sorry to say, but they are beautifully designed. So like this, they just come around and swoop, and they're just beautiful, they're graceful. Into a bunny hop airtime hill, and then it comes round and it's lost just enough speed to have a fairly comfortable barrel roll, and then down into final snake pass and into the brake run, like that. And guys, yeah, you guys also noticed that I didn't have any toilets in this area. Now that was kind of by design. It was following the Fantasy Island idea, but actually it turns out that in game you can't go that far without having toilets, because the idea of Fantasy Island is all of the toilets are inside or in the market, and so you just go into the pyramid, and you don't go to the toilet in the pyramid. That would be, you know what I mean. Please don't pee on the floor. So I've actually just ended up putting some toilets in here, so I'll kit those out, and it's quite nicely actually in the middle of everything around here, so I've just added those in. So as you've already seen, I need some custom supports in here, so I've been doing some research on supporting and how that's going to go. So of course I need to do the lift hill, and I need to just do the spots where the paths are going underneath. Now, of course, I'm going to cover over all of these and make it look like the area is in use, despite the fact that it's got no pathing. I don't want to go too OTT with the pathing, and I don't want to go too OTT with the custom supports, because obviously everything's fine in here. So I'm just going to shut up, and I'm going to let the custom supporting speak for itself. I will see you for the next update. I'm sorry I was mean about Icon. Please don't cancel me. I mean, Mack coasters are alright. They're cheap enough for parks to have a really good coaster. I mean, you've just got to look at DC Rivals to know that Mack, Blue Fire, of course, Mack do amazing coasters. So, yes. And look, we've got ourselves a Mack coaster in the park. Very much inspired by DC Rivals, I would concede, with the colour scheme and the station theme and all that sort of stuff. But look, it's all coming together quite nicely. I've done quite a lot of tidying up around the path area. It's now, like, it's amazing just at how different things look when you tidy it up with pathing, because before it was just a mess. So, this is what we've got. We've got a name. The most inspiring name for a roller coaster you'll ever imagine. Of course, Mega Rail. What else would you call it? So I've gone for the... Oh, No, that's right. I just saw this and I thought, oh no, the roof isn't right, but it is. That's how I designed it. So yeah, the actual whole thing itself is just very generic. I wanted to keep it simple, a little bit like Fantasy Island have got with Jubilee Odyssey and Millennium Coaster. Those stations are just complete generic sheds. In fact, this is probably high detailed in comparison to those coaster stations, and so this is where we sort of cross the line between being good at bad and bad at good, as I'm hoping that I'm just on the right side of that. So I've gone for very generic metal paneling walls with just the decoration and the colour scheme just to break it up a little bit, and inside the station I've gone for a black and white theme with the corrugated steel roofing. Very, very bland, very, very nothingness. That's whatever that is. That's really loud. Yeah, so I've just wanted to keep it really simple, really open, really sort of bland. But that's by design. But I've just made sure that I've kept the roof struts and everything just on show, just to give it a little bit of character. And I just need to do some final details in here with Theme Maker's Toolkit. Don't know if I'm going to number the bays and stuff yet. I need to sort of play it out, as you know what I do, to see how the area is going to feel. And then we come down to the queue line. Of course, because it's a roller coaster, it needs a bit more of a queue line. In the style of Fantasy Island, we would probably get away with just having the bit at the front here and then back round here. But because it's Planet Coaster and this is probably the most popular ride in park, I've just made sure that we've got a long enough queue just to cope with it. I mean, I'm restricting this at the moment to 2,000 guests, so we haven't got many people in the park. But when you do let this park loose, it's going to be, yeah, it's gonna be. And then the gift shop, I've just wanted to use the station a little bit, the space underneath the station a little bit, and so that's what I've done here. I've just put a gift shop in just so that guests have got something to do, make space of whatever you can, right? Put in a couple of service areas. The game's really struggling, by the way. You'll see stuttering quite a lot. It's starting to get to that Reigate Lake point now, unfortunately. So I started to put the electric cabinets and everything underneath here. So this is where everything would be in terms of servicing. And then you would have a massive space that's left here so that you can get vans and lorries and cranes in to remove the trains. So that's why this area is intentionally left completely blank. You just put a couple of benches and stuff down. And then the other side, I have put in the toilets. So the toilets are now kitted out in the same way that I've done all of the other toilets. There's nothing special about these ones. They've got the hand dryers, they've got the sinks, they've got the stuff. Just need to do a final detail pass. It needs emergency exit signs. And don't walk through the walls. Stop it. Stop it. Oh, it's cool, whatever. So yeah, I'm just in the process now of just detailing that. And of course, because it's a raised station, it needs disabled access, so that's what we've done. There's a disabled lift the other side of the station, right by the exit, so you can just literally go up and enter the ride that way. So the next thing to show you, custom supporting is done. Or is done to as well as I want to right now. I'm going to let the other area flesh out and see whether I need to do any more to it. But I've used the same supporting techniques as DC Rivals does. They have this like A-frame support with a cross beam, with a cross brace. Or a diagonal brace. I don't actually know what it's really called. But I wanted just to replicate that. And then this drop here is custom supported. And then I let the normal supports pick up for most other places. I swapped out the supports on the a couple of the airtime hills, and I intentionally designed the coaster like this area to be so close and compact because I wanted an area where it was just a mess of supports, where you couldn't possibly put anything else in this area other than benches. So I wanted that area here. I moved the Corrales from this area. It turned out it was conflicting with the custom supports. I needed to put the support down and it was going straight through the ride, so I just got rid, and it's now a games unit. That's now elsewhere. And then coming across this way, again, it's just all the custom supports. I've taken cues again from DC Rivals in the sense that you have 2 verticals and 2 diagonal supports on an airtime hill. Other than this one, which has been left as it is. There's precedent set for this kind of hill as well because it's drawn out. It doesn't actually need V-bracing, which I found very strange because you always V-brace an airtime hill because of the side forces, the lateral forces, but no, apparently you don't always with a Mack. So I've left it. Uncomfortably so, but I've left it. And then just added in a couple of cross braces along here. With regards to the supports, I've done my best to match the supports to the ones that are in game. This is the thinnest support we've got. We don't actually have Mack supports, and I looked on the workshop for some of them, and again they just didn't give the result I wanted. So I've just gone back to the in-game supports. They're good enough. They do what they need to do. And it creates this mess here, which is exactly what I wanted. And I've just managed to run some paths through as well. Because it's custom supporting, you haven't got to worry about knocking out some of these supports. So you still got people that can walk through the supports, and oh yeah, it's just great. So other things then that I've done, I wanted to pause like here. It doesn't look like I've done a lot in terms of visually, but obviously the most work is the station, the toilets, and this area here. Some other things that I've done, I had an area that I wanted to fill here. I couldn't put a ride in, so instead I've built some trampolines. And it's been requested by you guys quite a lot actually, like private comments and stuff that like you see around. And trampolines are the one thing that's missing from this park. So I built some. It's just a matter of art shapes, a couple of TMTK circles, a couple of beams, the whatever we decided we call it, the metal bubbly floor. That's the official title. And the TMTK cables. That's all they are, nothing special, but it just does what it needs to do. It represents trampolines. Thrown a couple of Harris fences around as well, just to create a queue and an exit. Needs a bit of detailing, but otherwise I'm happy with that. And then we have our poor man's Tigris. Look at the state of it. So it felt like this area needed to have a little bit of a theme going to it, but not too heavily, and it needed to borrow a little bit from the adventure theme from Inside the Dome. Inside the Dome, do you remember when that was a thing? So yeah, I just wanted to have this idea of the this area being a bit purpose built. The brick has come from TMTK. It's the brick factory wall, which is brilliant actually. It looks really good in this area because it just creates that really good colour. And then just really cheap station, like really cheap station. It's just a couple of poles just made to look relevant. A couple of lights inside, cables that have been laid. Again, needs its TMTK pass, or another TMTK pass. I started it, but I don't want to do a cabin for this one. I want to keep it open. I want to keep it like bland. It's just they threw this in because they had space. There's no care involved with this one at all. So next port of call, I was going to work on this area here, but I'm feeling a bit more inspired to work on the log flume. So I think I might do the log flume and work back, because I think I need to put the final place of this log flume down, right? Because it's going to be interacting with the chairlift, it's going to be interacting with the paths, and I need to build this as a channel, and then I need to kit it out as like proper channels and stuff, and have proper concrete down and theme this. And this is going to be lightly themed to Western. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to start working on the log flume and work back this way, and then with whatever time I've got left, start to do this area if I've got anything left. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'm going to carry on. I will see you for the next one. Alright then guys, so we are continuing our charge around the outside of Fundy Funspot, and you can see there's quite a lot of work that's going on at the back here, but just like the penultimate update of the last episode, I'm at that point where I need to start bringing it together. I need to do fine detailing phases on everything that I've built around here, and also this area at the back here that was never actually done. So you can see that it's looking a little bit lifeless and a bit soulless, but that's okay because it's going to come to life once we do the final detailing and everything, so that's all cool. So Mega Rail needs another detailing pass just to make sure that that's all fit for purpose and as I want it. There's a few changes and everything that I think I want to make, so that's cool. But this is where I've been working for the most part. So the log flume now has an actual storyboard. It's now actually working, so awesome stuff. You can see as well that the chairlift is now working, so that's now open and operating. But I've not bothered to do buildings for these, and I don't know whether I should. So I'm going to rely on you guys to tell me in the comments below whether you think we should have buildings for these or not. Because I'm totally open with Fundy Funspot having these open air. You do see them, there is precedent set for them, but at the same time it feels like it should have a building. But I don't really know. Let me know. Let me know down below what you think. So this is the area then that I've been working on as well. I've just reconfigured the rides in this area. I wanted the corrales to feel a bit janky, so that's why the fences don't really line up. They're not really tidy. It just feels like they've just thrown it down because, you know, western and wood fences and stuff. And then we've also got the tilt-a-whirl, I think it's called. The one that we had in Reigate Lake, because it's got an awful pun. This one doesn't have an awful pun, I promise. But this one's a bit more established, so we've got the wooden fence that's in, and I've coloured it in accordance to the actual ride itself, so the brown and the purple. So this kind of like makes a bit more sense. And then we've also got the Monte Leone that's in the... Where did that even come from? That's in the park. So again, I just need to find a way of making this feel a bit more temporary. I think I'm going to steal some of the other stuff from the other side, you know, the lights and the stuff, you know, to make it look a bit more temporary. So, but that's all in and ready to go. But this is now where most of the work has happened, and this has taken a lot of effort because I had to not only cut out all of the channel, I've then had to lay down all of the concrete. So everything on here is the TMTK concrete pads, and then it's the hydro gravel that's sitting on top to make it look like sand. And I think the effect is absolutely awesome, and I did completely steal this from Fantasy Island. Not even going to lie. Needs some touching up. Like this should be a full concrete channel, but it seems that you don't really have much in the way of maintenance and servicing type stuff. Everything is very well hidden underneath the concrete pad, so all of the pipes and everything are well hidden. Unlike Reigate Lake, where everything was on show and everything you could see. Oh, hello. Just people running through us. Yeah, so everything was on show in Reigate Lake. It's very much not in Fantasy Island. It's all a very well contained log flume. The only thing that you do see, and we've got a slightly different layout, but the only thing you do see is a channel that goes from the station to the bottom of the first drop, because it draws water out of the station and takes it to the first drop, ready for it to come up and come down here. So we've just got a slightly different setup. I have represented that in the background here. So it is an actual concrete pit that's covered over by the walkways, and that would be almost like the walkways would come up if you ever needed to service the area. So that's all fine. And then this would be the gate that you'd go in and go in to service the area. And then just around the back of the log flume, I've just put the other stuff that you'd expect to see, you know, like the emergency stop features and the electric cabinets and stuff. So that's all kind of like hidden. You can't really see it when you come around the corner, but it's very much there. It's very much operational. So remembering that when the log flume isn't in operation, the channels would all be drained into this pit, and all of the actual flume boats would either be lined up on the hill here, or they would live inside the station. So that's all good and well. And then I've just thrown around a load of Western theming. I just felt like this always should have been a Western theme, and lots of rocks, taking very much the inspiration we had from inside the dome when we did the volcano and everything. Just that same idea of really cheap papier-mâché rocks, or whatever they're going to make them for outside living. Yeah, so I just wanted to have that Western, and then loads of like cactuses that have been thrown around as well, just to make it look westerny, and just a few probably slightly more expensive Western themes. You know, we've got the wagon, and we've got the 2 windmills, and we've just got a couple of barrels and crates and everything that are running around. So I like this, and I like how it comes to a sudden end as well. Like this fence that's sitting around the outside next to the asphalt, next to the newly laid down path. And then you just got all the gravel and everything, and every so often the gravel peeks through, and it looks like it's left, and it's come up onto the asphalt. But also I've left gaps as well, and I've also in places made it sort of collect around the bottom of rocks, because the wind would have picked it up and it would have drifted it, you know, as it goes along. So I've made sure to vary all of that, and I'm actually really pleased with how this effect has turned out. I think it looks really cool. Like from this level, it just looks like a channeled log flume. Yeah, it was actually surprisingly easy to do. Way easier to do than Reigate Lake, but it was still a lot of work because I had to create this entire this entire pad. The station itself, very simple, very similar to the coaster that we did over this side, the Tigris wannabe. It's just wood beams, a bit of lighting, and it just needs a theme maker's toolkit pass just to make sure that everything is in place. This one does have an operator booth though, so there's our operator booth, and there is a door, and the door is actually on the back here, and there'd be a gate here, and they would walk down this way to come into the operator booth rather than coming in this side. So I just wanted to change that up and make that sort of slightly different to how we've done it in the past. Then the fences, they're all custom fences. So these are the normal beams that are in the game. The pole, I'm going to pause that because that's really loud. And then you've also got the beams that are in the game. You've got a pole that's available on Theme Maker's Toolkit, and then you've also got the planks that come down. That's also Theme Maker's Toolkit as well. I'm sorry, I don't remember who they are. I want to say it's Hydro because everything I do is with Hydro, but I don't know if it is. They come in multiple different sizes. They come in 1, 2, 3, and 4 meters, and then different widths as well. They're really versatile. They are absolutely awesome. And then I've just put the concrete underneath as well, just to make sure that we've got pillars and everything that are going, just to give this a bit of realism. And then I think I'm going to put something underneath here, but I don't know what I'm going to put yet. It'll be like vending machines or something, because it's undercover, right? It's underneath a path, so you wouldn't want to waste this sort of space for any reason, especially as it's quite an important bit. So we don't need toilets in this area because the nearest toilets are in here. So thankfully we're serviced by toilets. And I started just to do what I'm going to do in the backstage episode. So I started to outline where I want the potential office to be, and there's going to be some more office space and everything over here. And then I've also started to outline where warehouses and everything are going to go along here. And I think in this episode I also want to get this coaster done. So this is like a Schwarzkopf Looper. You would have seen it in Koa Wonderland. I've just stolen it from there because I like this layout. It's just such a beautiful layout. So I think I might actually just go and steal the whole thing from Koa Wonderland. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to see what the blueprint looks like to know whether I should, or whether I should just do my own. Don't know yet. It's one of those, let me play it out and see what happens. But guys, that's everything for this one. So like I say, the next update is going to be all finished, all fully fleshed out, and all ready to go for the end of the episode. So I will see you for that. Alright then, so I think it's time to get the done for now stamp out. There's lots and lots and lots of detailing that's been going on in this area, and I was starting to find myself working on the backstage area and bringing that to life, and I was like, no, that needs to be the next episode. I don't have time to do that stuff in this episode. So I've put a forced stop to it, but like I say, loads of detailing that's been going on. I'm really chuffed with how this has turned out, because it now feels like it now starting to feel like a proper seaside park with everything just thrown into the car park. So I don't even know where to start giving you the tour, so let's just start with what we see in front of us, right? Let's start with Mega Rail. So I'm going to come over to the station, and I've done the whole idea of the entrance plaza. I've copied across all of the fountains and everything from the front of the park. I've kind of foreshadowed that in the last few episodes that was going to be the case, and it now just makes this area make sense. It feels like Fundy Funspot would have made a bit of an effort to make a thing of this area. So I've put the text down on the ground, I've put the fountains in, I've just put some cheap nasty fountain in front of it, and of course then you've got the very stark modern station building that's living in the background here, but you're very much met front on with as much Mega Rail branding as you can possibly imagine. So I've used loads of neon, and I've used loads of different fonts and colours, and of course it's going to be pink and blue. It's got to be on brand, right? So in terms of the actual station itself then, worked on the inside of the station. I'm just going to pause that because now that the Skywatcher has just started, it's really loud. This is the third take of this. It just gets really loud. So inside the actual station itself then, I've just done loads and loads of detailing, extra cables being run across the station, and electricity cabinets and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to be doing a massive pass of Theme Maker's Toolkit and detailing when we actually come to bring the project to a close, because there's going to be loads of stuff that I'm going to have missed in this foray of putting loads of stuff in a car park. It's not like Reigate Lake, where I was concentrating on one ride an episode and I was able to fully detail it out. It's guaranteed that I'm going to have missed stuff. So yeah, so I've just put loads of like the detailing and everything in here, and I actually quite like how this has turned out. I like how the white and the black work with the pink and the blue. So it's turned out quite nicely. And then underneath then I've just put some more engineers type stuff down the bottom. You've got the electric cabinets and just some equipment that they may have used, and it's obviously all it's kept away from the guest eye, or not guest eye, kept away from guest access. You're not allowed in there. Just finished off the shop itself, so I wanted to keep it really simple. I just put some more colour in, just put the splash of the blue in. I realised I hadn't done any kind of trim around the ceiling. It had no lights or anything like that. It really wasn't finished. So I've just come in and I've just put all of that down. And I like how bleak this is and how simple this is. It works. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be highly decorated. It's just supposed to be this ultra sleek, modern, bland. I can unpause the game again. Ultra modern and bland. So that's kind of what I was going for in this situation. Of course, you've got the queue line that's along this side, so we already know that the queue line is very much supposed to be just a queue. It's, you know, you could probably reconfigure this if the park was quiet, or if the queues weren't actually that big. You could probably get rid of most of this and put a ride in its place. You know, that's the kind of thing that Fundy Funspot would have done. And so then we come over to our wannabe of Tigris, and we've now got a name. It's now called Zyklon, and I've just added loads of like foliage detailing around here. It didn't feel like this area needed much work doing to it, other than bringing it to life with some plants and to make it look a little bit nicer. So that's what I've done. Benches and everything outside the front, nice area to chill out, and of course it's at an access point. So remember, we don't have a main entrance for this park, it's just at this access point that we've got here. So it felt like it needed to be a bit of an open area, because this is where people are going to be coming to and from, and of course you've got the ticket booths and everything that are along the side here. And then I've also just built a nice little ice cream shack. I had different food and drink here originally, but I thought no, it needs to go back to its roots with ice cream. I know we've got Game of Cones in the background, and it's almost like this is an extension of that. So that's what we're doing there. And I just liked how this turned out. It was just something random that I pulled together completely from imagination. I didn't actually do any research or anything on it, and it actually turned out quite nicely. So nice and simple, and away you go. So I've just put ticket booths and everything down this side, and like I say, Zyklon is just now sorted. Inside the station itself, I have put just some more details in, so cable running, cabinets for electricity, CCTV, all of that sort of stuff. And only one staff member would work this one. I'm toying with the idea that you might have another staff member the other side of the station. I'm not sure. I think one person would be able to do the entire train, because it's only 16 seats tops. So right. So chill out. So yeah, I just decided just for the one member staff, just for the ride here. So I have then also detailed around the Enterprise. That's just been brought to life. I'll talk about this in a minute, because these are everywhere. I've placed them absolutely everywhere. In fact, they're here. So these are done by, I think, _fog. Yes, _fog on the Steam Workshop. I did try and build my own, and then I realised that actually this one on the workshop is far better than anything I could have built myself. So I've actually decided just to allow the guests to walk through it and clip through it, but just to pull it from the workshop. It just felt like this was actually a much better thing than I could achieve, so I've just left them to it. So thank you, _fog. This is a really, really nice addition. And then of course we've got our trampolines that are here. So nothing has changed on here, but they now fit quite nicely now that we've got loads of game stalls and stuff around it. This area now fits quite nicely. So really pleased with how these turned out, actually. I didn't think they were going to. I thought it was going to be a bit rubbish, but they actually turned out really quite nice. So quite chuffed with that. I'll take that as a win. And then you probably would have seen these before in previous lives and previous YouTubers and everything. This is Fisherman's game stalls. They are incredible. I went about my way trying to build myself a bit of an alleyway of Midway games, and looked for inspiration on the workshop, found these and thought, actually this is exactly what I was looking for. So why bother to waste my time ruining myself and my creativity when actually Fisherman's done an awesome job of doing stuff already, so let's just go ahead and use those. So Fisherman, thank you if you're watching. These are incredible. I absolutely love them, and I've used them everywhere. So you'll see like they're all at the back along here. And then I've dotted them around rather than using my own game stalls, because it felt like it was a bit repetitive. It felt like it was a bit cookie cutter, so I wanted to have something different, and that's what I did. And then moving on to the Monteleone, so I wanted to set myself a challenge of what can I build without using ThemeMaker's Toolkit, because I know that on this one we use ThemeMaker's Toolkit a lot. So I decided to set out, other than the fencing, of course, which was already put down, I set out to build a cover for this rather than dragging across the other stuff, the other lights, because again, it just felt like I was just copying and pasting stuff. It needed its own identity. So I set out to build this completely out of in-game pieces, and I've actually succeeded. So this is the Haunted House wooden piece. Of course, you've seen the fairy lights before. The roof is just the rectangle flat piece. These come from the vintage pack. Pillars come from the supports pack, you know, the one that you can build coaster supports. And then on the inside, I've just built a bit of a separating roof so that you've actually got a reason to come on the ride. So behind here, you've got loads of like studio lights and everything that are going off, and it just actually looks pretty cool. I made sure that it's not so much touching the actual ride itself, so it does actually, I don't know if you can see it very well on this video, but it comes to an end here and then the ride comes underneath it, so this is very much like a floating partition. And then on the actual just loads of stuff, I just threw loads of the in-game stuff at it just to make it as sickly as possible. And then on the inside I did the same, so loads of the vintage pack stuff. And on the inside, this would obviously be dark, so you'd have some lights and stuff that's going on in here. So I thought that was quite cool. I thought actually that was a nice little representation of what you can achieve if you're actually setting out to not do ThemeMaker's Toolkit. So obviously this would look very different if I was able to use beams, and this has got a bit of a charm and a bit of a personality to it. So yeah, it turned out quite nicely. Lots of detailing in the area around the other flat rides then, so just like bins and benches and some lights. I've been working on the nighttime lighting. I'm not going to show you until the entire park is complete, but I have been working on the nighttime lighting as we've been going along. So you'll see like loads of lampposts and stuff that have been put up. At the back I had this dead space. I didn't want to put food and everything in because I've got food in the actual pyramid down here, so I decided to just reuse the Fisherman's awesome midway games. So I just put those in a row, and that actually filled that space quite nicely. It felt like actually that belonged, and then the coaster obviously comes alongside it. So the log flume, lots of detailing that's happened in the log flume, of course. So we've now got an entrance sign and all of the appropriate height signs and warning signs and stuff. But I've also just done some more detailing around the actual ride area, a bit more theming that's been added, a few more pipes and whatever, just to make this actually functional in terms of how you'd move the water around the actual log flume, that kind of stuff. But like I say, Fantasy Islands is really well hidden. It's really well put together in terms of the ride itself. I mean, given that it's a low budget park, they've done a really good job of making their log flume quite contained. So I've kind of copied that idea, just put a bit of maintenance-y type stuff just in front of the station here, and then on the inside I've just thrown down some real random theming. It just felt like this back end that's not actually being used just needed to have some kind of life adding to it, so I've just thrown down some random western theming. And then the other side of here I've just put some cabinets and just some more maintenance stuff. Again, it's hidden from the guest view, but it's still very much on view. If you know where to look, you'll be able to find it. So that's kind of what I'm going for. And then I just finished up all of the pathing, making sure that everything is all flush and everything is all good. So yeah, I'm actually pleased with how the log flumes turned out. I didn't think it was going to be this good, especially with the gravel. The gravel really makes it pop out to life. So I'm glad I did that. I'm glad that was a thing. I've then copied across all of the tarmac across here. So this is now just one pad of tarmac. Of course, underneath it, you know, there's loads of different paths and stuff. You know how I work. This is what I meant earlier on when I said I started to work on the backstage area, and I thought, no, I need to stop this because this is going to be the next episode. Is going to be the backstage and the finishing of the rides here. So what I did instead was worked on Bolt. And I decided not to drag it through from Koa Wonderland, because that was a very specific build, and it was very specifically put together for the area of the park that it lived in Koa Wonderland. So I decided actually not to, so I went from scratch. And this is where I got the inspiration actually of building a non-Theme Maker's Toolkit thing, because this is how I started out. I was using all of the in-game pieces. I ended up needing Theme Maker's Toolkit to detail and to put the runners along the queue line and everything, but everything else I wanted to keep it as simple as possible, because I think it's quite important for you guys to understand that actually you don't need Theme Maker's Toolkit for something to look alright. It just enhances it. So that's what I've done. I've only used Theme Maker's Toolkit to enhance it. Anyway, I'm prattling on about that. I should just shut up and show you. So the layout itself, very typical Schwarzkopf. I did some investigating on what the supports would look like for a permanent installation of a Schwarzkopf, and actually the in-game ones are really good. I didn't need to do any work, and what work I could have done wouldn't have enhanced what you see anymore, so I just took the creative decision to not bother. But it's a pretty typical compact layout. You come up your lift hill, and then you go down the first drop into a loop, into a really sharp tight bend, and then it's just twisty and turny from there. So lots of dips, lots of dives, lots of twists, and goes around. There's only the one inversion that's the loop, and the rest is all airtime moments. But it does feature multiple blocks, so I've put the blocks in, and they're on various different heights, and then I've just made sure I've connected them with the in-game walkways and made the railings and stuff, and everything is connected. So these have all got stairways that come down, and then where it does come down you then have actual physical walkways, so if you did ever need to evacuate the ride, then everything is ready for you to just get people off, and then they can come through. So if the ride did happen to start, your guests are still safe. They have a safe passage. They have a safe passage out, and this walkway then eventually leads its way back around to the break room, and you can either then evacuate people from this point here, or you can evacuate them from the break room. So that's what I've done. Lights, of course, up the lift hill, and lights along the break run as well, just for safety. The last thing to show you on this build then is this area. I did want this to be an office, and I had grand plans of making this bit an office, putting an office on the top here, and having that like really stick out like a sore thumb. And then I started to do it, and I was like, no, I really don't like this. So instead I put a food unit in, because why else? What else? So I decided to put in a load of the benches and everything along this side. I wanted it to be a bit more of like a decking area, so you can sit beside and then have this really stark, like, this is the wall, this is the outside wall, live with it. So yeah, that's what I've done there. And then I just wanted to use the chow mein. I very rarely use the chow mein shops in games, so I wanted to use this, and actually wanted to give it a bit more of an Asian feel to it, but also a little bit Mexican and a little bit Western. So that's kind of infusion kind of style is what I've gone for here. I think it needs a little bit of touching up, but I do need to play out this area down here to know what I might need to do to this to touch it up. Like I don't like the gap that I've got at the top here, but I didn't want to just fill it in with the usual stuff like the billboards or the screens that I use or another awning or anything like that. So I just need to find out how this area is going to feel to know what I could put in here to blend the areas together. So that's kind of what I was going for. And so this is how it looks from the top then, guys. I'm really pleased with how Fundy Funspot itself is really turning out. I mean, this coaster just frames this area nicely. I like that it cuts through, but it doesn't cut off. And I don't know if I mentioned this, and forgive me for saying so, but everything's raised, so nothing actually touches the ground, so you don't need any kind of fencing along this route. And if you look at Fantasy Island, Millennium Coaster does exactly the same thing. It just goes over the top, and at some points it gets really close to guests. You can almost put your arms up and reach out, and that's kind of what I'm going for here. So everything was built at ground level and then raised up, so that I knew that I could just place paths wherever. I didn't need to work my path around the coaster. They can all just go underneath the actual ride itself, and that's turned out quite nicely, because the coaster cuts out in an L shape, and then you've just got this mess in the middle that just comes together really nicely. So guys, this is Fundy Funspot as it sits at the moment. Thank you so much for coming along for this ride. If you have liked this episode, really would appreciate you just booping the like booping the like for me, because that helps us to find new audiences all the time. The next episode we're going to be focusing mainly on this area at the back here and getting the final rides finished, and then we're going to start doing all of the back of house stuff. So we're going to start maintenance areas and offices and everything, and then start to bring everything to life. So thank you so much. Of course, I will see you next week, and please keep yourself safe. You know what to do. See you next week. Bye bye.